Femme House fam, what's happening? Another episode of Femme House Radio. I'm so excited about this one. So excited that I forgot to tell you who I am, but if you don't know, you should know. I'm her Mix-a-Lot, co-founder of Femme House and head of culture. I am with Bridge, the one, the only. If you have even sniffed social media in the last few weeks, you already know what it is. Bridge, what's happening?
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
So this is funny. We were just talking about it. You sent like your materials and everything in before the big boom. How are you feeling since
You
the big
know
boom?
it's been beautiful. I will say that I am just very grateful that people have been able to react to the set that I've created, the artistry, the curation, exactly the way that I hoped that my art would be reciprocated and received.
You're sort of a marketer first, and I think that comes across with your sort of expertise social media wise. So how does it feel to know that like one, you got the game, right? You got the controller game, the nicks, the knacks, you've got it as a DJ, but this vision that you've had to sort of platform yourself as an artist, it's really resonating. How does that feel for you?
I really appreciate that question because I think it reminds people that when you are an artist, you are many different things. You can take all of the skills that you learned in life and actually apply them to what you want to do. And I've done marketing for 10 years, but I've been a theater girl for 15. I've been a community builder for 10 years. And so bridging, no pun intended, bridging all of that together, I think has allowed me to create a world for people where the DJ skills themselves, I had to make sure that I was a good technical DJ first. As a woman, as a Black woman, we don't really get a lot of opportunities to mess up. So I had to be a good technical DJ first. Then I started building my community, and then I started building my brand and the storytelling and who Bridge is and what does she provide to the masses and what do we need from her in order to feel free and uplifted.
Tell the folks about your origin story, how you went from Bridget to Bridge. I think it's a really interesting one, and I think that our community can learn a few things, quite frankly. So tell us, you haven't been DJing that long in the grand scheme of things. So
Yeah.
tell the folks how Bridget became Bridge.
Yeah, I've been in this world now for 31 years. I was born in Italy and lived there for some time, lived in California for 15 years, now in New York for 9. And, I've always loved music. My dad had CDs of Michael Jackson, The Whispers, Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, I loved music and still do. My mom listened to High Life, which is Ghanaian gospel music. So I was always around music and I was always dancing and singing. And I did theater for so long. And when I came to New York, I wanted to still build community. I still wanted to do theater, but I just didn't want to deal with the competition of trying to get into Broadway. And so I immersed myself in what I've always been comfortable with, which is music and DJing and visiting DJs and learning about what they do. And I had always said I wanted to DJ, and my husband, at the time, he was my boyfriend, but now he's my husband. He bought me a controller, for Christmas.
Period.
Yeah, and he said, "Here you go." And, I think with partnership, you always want to, put your partner in a better light than they are before. So, started DJing about 4 years ago, and when I was thinking of my name, I kid you not, I wanted to be called ICB because I felt like at the time people were creating, like, DJ name personas. So, I wanted a DJ name persona, and a friend told me, they have been DJing for 10 years, and the one important thing that they wish they had done at the time was to make their DJ name their name, and I thought
Mm.
that was so boring. I was like, "Why would I want to be called Bridget?" Like, but I've always had the nickname Bridge, I've always had the nickname B, and I thought about it and I said, "Fine, I'll use Bridge," but I kid you not, I never understood the breadth of that name until last year, until I realized that I'm bridging generations of people who love house music, like Gen Xers and even boomers, to millennials and Gen Z who haven't really, listened to it in the perspective that I believe is indebted to the culture, as well as bridging the love of disco and more like modern dance music. So the name actually has impacted me a lot later than I thought it would.
I think of your sets as a bridge from past to present, and one of the things that you're very, very, very intentional about in your set curation is this sort of element of education. Will you tell our listeners more about that?
Oh my goodness. I have been a student forever. I went to school at University of California, Santa Barbara, and got my degrees in Black Studies and Feminist Studies. So I love history. I love culture. I believe that our present and our future is really indebted to the past. We can learn so much about the past to understand where we're going. And I have always loved music journalism. I wanted to be a music journalist at some point. I've been writing articles about music for a long time, even Facebook posts when I was in middle school. So for me, this education part that I embed into the content creation I make and also into the DJ sets, it's always been a part of me. It's nothing new, but I think it's new for this industry because a lot of DJs want to DJ for the sake of clout and they want to DJ for the sake of just feeling important. But I am only here because of the people before me. You know, house music is here because of Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles and Sharon White and Larry Heard and Ron Hardy. You know what I mean? I'm only here because of Stacey Hot Wax Hell and DJ Paulette. And, you know, there's just so many people that came before me. It is my responsibility and my duty to keep sharing that history and those stories so that in the future we can see a clear impact of how Black people, Black queer people are always the culture makers in this world. So I am not Bridge without the history. And in the future, people will not be who they are without Bridge and so many other current DJs and producers who are creating culture right now.
Bridge, you better preach. You better preach. I almost slammed my laptop shut. I forgot I was hosting.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about the social media elephant in the room, which is the fits, girl. Like what
Yes.
I know that you are very you're very verbose about world building.
Yes.
And that is so clear when you see one of your sets. And I'd like to hear more about how you're taking your love of fashion and the fact that you're a theater kid and the fact that you're educating folks about the roots of dance music. How does that all coalesce into your stage presence and a bridge set?
Oh, I love that question. I have always said that when I'm DJing, I am really cultivating the energy from my ancestors through my body and to the audience. So usually when I'm on stage or when I'm DJing, I feel things before I even understand what I'm doing. And fashion is something that is a expression of who we are and can also be an expression of the music. It's an additional way to bring people into what you're creating. At the end of the day, as a DJ, you are a performer, you are an artist. So how can you take that to the next level? I, for one, really love fashion. And when I started DJing, I was wearing like what is it called? Like streetwear because I thought like women were supposed to like look cool and act cool, but I've always been a fashion girly. And this woman named Shonen, she saw my lot radio set in 2024 and DM'd me and was like, I love what you do. I'd love to style you. And I was like, girl, I already have it figured out. And she was like, okay, well, let's try a show together. I was like, okay. And we worked it out. And I thought, wow, she really took what I see in myself and what I envision to be a performance to the next level. And the book club radio set was only our second collaboration, but we've been friends now for over a year. And
Mm.
book club radio said their theme was pirates. And I thought, there were no black pirates, or even black women pirates. You cannot find a single historical reference that there were black women pirates because they were racist. But during the golden age of piracy, there were free Creole women and certain women of color in the port cities, in the dock, and supporting the docks and supporting the pirates when they were coming down to rest. And their impact is the reason why pirates were able to take a rest, get some food, find a hostel, and then go on about their day. So I thought, how can I take the age of golden piracy, the way that Creole women and free women of color were dressing at the time, and also the French inspired 17th, 18th century to create this moment of disco house and the element of gospel house all into one. Because if you look at it from a perspective of this is a gospel set, you can see that. If you see it from perspective of this is a pirate set, you can see that. And if you see it from the perspective of this is a historical set, you can see
Mhm.
all three, depending on what you wanna listen to.
Well, you know what? You and Shonen ate.
Yes, we did.
You know what? I love that you name that early in your career, you were sort of just like, "Oh, I gotta look cool. I gotta do this streetwear thing." That is such a especially for Black women
Yes.
DJs, that is such a hang up, you know, that and it's racist, it's
Yep,
patriarchal.
yep,
This idea that you have to sort of like hide your true self if your true self is a fashion girly because that makes you less serious, that makes you too attention seeking,
yep,
that makes you, you know, open to objectification. And it's all of these little mental blocks, right? That chip away at women DJs, that chip away at especially women DJs of color that most other DJs don't even have to think about.
no,
And they're so like think about the mental energy that that took for you early in your career, right? Like I imagine, you know, my co-founder LP for like a known fashion girly forever. Like you can see pictures of her when she's 3 and 4 years old, like getting a fur off, right? For like 3, 4 years of her career, she was just like freaking out about what to wear. And I was like, "You're the most fashionable person I know. You are the most comfortable in your style and have been your entire life that you know." And it was just this constant battle of it's not about me, it's about how people see me because
yeah,
I can't add another layer of discrimination onto what I've got going on. And that's a white
mhm.
woman. You know
Yep.
what I mean? That's a white woman.
Yep,
So I really appreciate you naming that and also reclaiming this idea that you're a fashion girly, yes, and also you're a fashion girly with a cause. You like got
yep,
a fit off and you educated.
yep, absolutely, and you know what's funny, when I first started DJing and I would ask promoters for a slot, they wanted me to play hip hop, which is again another expectation of Black people, Black women. And I thought to myself, "I'm sorry, but house is Black music." So, so I went from, being expected to play hip hop and R&B, which is also another racist implication, to having this patriarchal idea of, "Oh, I have to wear, like, jeans and, like, a crop top so that I'm not too sexy, but I'm kinda muted." And it didn't fit me, but I thought that it would help me look more serious or feel more serious. And, I got better technically because I could focus on that, but I didn't think people were really seeing me for who I was. And the moment that I opened myself to that, the flood of people going, "Wow, you're inspiring me as a white woman, a white man, a queer person to be free." That is the goal of art, is to inspire others. And so if people can see me in a pirate fit and go, "Oh my goodness, I can now finish my dissertation," which someone did. Someone literally played my book club radio set for weeks to help them finish their dissertation. Like, wow, you know what I mean? It's just we should always be true to ourselves. You never know who you might be able to inspire by in doing so.
What was that process for you like this idea, you know, female DJs of color, female DJs of color, they're so often asked in these really passive aggressive ways essentially to erase themselves, right?
Mm,
To just be a blank slate that we can project onto what blackness looks like for you, what queerness
yeah,
looks like for you. What was it like, you know, first you're in your baggies, your crop top, you're playing hip hop. That's not bridge, right? What was it like for you? What was the process of going, "Pff, I can't do this anymore, bro. Like
yeah.
something has to give." What was the process like of stepping into your power, of stepping
You
into
know,
just who you are?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of being able to work with shonen, and I had an opportunity to DJ at Soul in the Horn with Natasha Diggs, who is also a really big fashion girly, and I thought, "Okay, this outfit or this kind of look that I've been doing that is very mask doesn't fit the vibe of me, nor does it fit the vibe of this party." So in
Mm,
working with shonen, we kind of crossed between that. So I was still wearing pants, but I did like a custom David Baptiste, like, pant situation. We did like a denim top, and that was the first time I ever used a feather fan, which is a staple um in my imagery. I was using fans before, but it was like the plastic clackety fans, but I
Mhm.
just bought a feather one, and it was in that moment that I think bridge was reborn, because then following that, I ended up doing a show at Xanadu with the Soul Connection girlies, Lovey and Honey Bun, and ended
Mhm.
up getting really big fluffy pink top with the white fan, and I got, like, these curly hair extensions, and I remember going to the party going, "Is this too much?" And they're like, "It's perfect for us." And so the validation I was receiving from other
Yeah.
DJs going, "Wow, I love your look," and my fans being like, "I can't wait for your next look." It's just so validating to go, "Okay, now you're seeing the story," you know? And not every gig requires a full designer bust down, you know? Sometimes
Mhm.
simple top and jeans is perfect because I really want the music to be the center, and some events, I do require a full designer fit down because 1, I wanna support local and domestic artists, and 2, I want the music to also feel like it is a full performance. But once I am in my full outfit, oh my goodness, the music literally goes, it's like it's 10 times better. Because imagine if I did the book club radio set in jeans and a top. It still would have been great, don't get me wrong.
Right.
The
Yeah.
hat with the gloves and the corset, and it's a whole package, and I'm deeply, deeply inspired by Beyoncé and her intentionality, and so I think
Mm.
a lot of my performances take on um, her confidence and her intentionality with everything that she does, and so, yeah.
You spoke a little bit here about validation from other
Mhm.
DJs and this idea that you are quite literally a bridge, that someday somebody's going to be looking at what you're doing to inspire them and what you've looked to. You just named Beyonce as an influence. Um, what would you say to young Bridget who came over? I love this. You said when you got to the United States, you knew three words:
Yeah.
yes, no, and hamburger. What would you say to baby Bridget to make sure that she becomes Bridge?
You know, I'm gonna flip that because Baby Bridge did everything she needed to get to this,
Mm,
you know? And everything I'm doing now is for an older Bridge. I see her. I see her clearly. I see her future, but it's gonna take me and going through these trials and tribulations and rewards and plateaus and peaks and valleys to get to that point. But what I wanna say is I wanna thank Baby Bridge
mm.
for her, like, unrequited, like, excitement and naivety and curiosity, you know? I moved to New York 9 years ago with only $5,000, no job, and a signed one-year lease, and I just believed that I could do it. I
I
have
also
to.
I wanna interrupt you real quick. For the
Yes,
girlies that are not in the major metropolises, moving to New York City with $5,000 in your pocket is like moving to nearly any other city with, like, $500 in
yes,
your pocket, just so
yes,
you know.
yes, thank you
Carry
for
carry on, carry on.
that was no money. That was no money, and I believed, I was like, "I am going to figure it out." So I also have to thank 22-year-old Bridget for believing in herself the same way that when I'm 55, I will have to thank 31-year-old Bridget for the things that she's done. So I never give advice for my younger self. I'm always thanking them for bringing me to where I am now.
Period. Shout out to Young Bridge. Shout out to Bridget's hubby. You ate with the
Yes!
controller, girl. You
Yay!
ate that. Shout out to Shonen. Shout out to Beyonce. Bridge, thank
Yes!
you so much for being here. You are, I mean, you are culture. You are living, breathing culture. You are, it is so cool to watch you make history in real time and the intentionality that you bring to doing that, to building community. It's inspirational for us, and we're so glad that we're on the right side of history with you, baby.
Yes. Oh, I'm deeply thankful. I'm thankful for your time and your questions, and I just I'm really lucky to be in this position, and I hope that I can continue to spread joy and allow people to feel themselves and feel free, and that I can continue to express myself and my work and the music that I so deeply love. So thank you so much.
This is Femme House Radio. I am her mix a lot. This is Bridge. We'll see you next time. Bye.